Hello, everybody. This is Grandpa, Dad, etc. Just for fun, I thought we'd have a little presentation, and Jan's going to help me with um, my mother's side of the family tree. But I thought I'd just share kind of a top of the trees overview of where in the world the Blair name came from and share a little background on what I'm working on here. So please consider this to be very, very preliminary. The key word here is the preliminary research. I haven't had a lot of time to spend on this, but so far, thanks to some work by Pop, my father, and his cousin Ken down in Tucson, and some other sources, we've been slowly putting together some information that you may find kind of interesting. First of all, I think as a lot of you may already know, the Blair name essentially comes from Scotland, and more specifically, I've been able to at least tentatively trace back to in Scotland a name yet to be defined, but around 1440 to 1500 at a location that has not been nailed down exactly in Scotland was sort of the origin of the Blair, and we'll talk a little bit more about how Blair, the actual Blair name, was derived. But incidentally, Monty, up here you see Oban. That's where we went to the Isle of Mull, so we were pretty close to Ayrshire. Ayrshire, pronounced A-I-A-Y-R's Air, A-I-R, and you put the emphasis on Ayrshire when you get down to the locations in Scotland. This general area, as just a general recall item, southwest Scotland below Glasgow, that's the area nearest to Northern Ireland. This appears to be the area of the common area where most of the original generations of what I hope the DNA, we'll see when the DNA results come in for myself to see how far we can trace this back. But the family actually, there were generations that migrated to Northern Ireland. Daniel Blair, Samuel Blair, Daniel Blair Senior, Daniel Blair Jr., John Blair, and then ultimately here's my great-grandfather, Hugh Sloan Blair, as confirmed in writing by my father and some things that he left me. And as best we can determine, Hugh Blair had moved from Ireland. He was born in 1848 in Ireland, and he moved to, of all places, I'm not sure where he stopped along the way, but he wound up in Fort Scott, Kansas. And from there, that's where my grandfather, on my father's side, Charles Galt Blair, was born in September 10, 1871, and then he migrated to Sparta, Illinois, where he died mowing the lawn at a fairly young age in June of 26. So my father, Paul Blair, who we'll talk about a little bit, was born in Sparta, Illinois, and some of the background information that I'll bring up on the screen now, which I think you'll find interesting, is that, incidentally, Jan and I are using a tool from a genealogy, a lot of programs, and we'll send you links as time goes by to the URL and the website. She's got one that she's created for her side of the family, or my mother's side of the family, and I'm still working on this one. But I've gotten up to 13 generations here, starting from my father, Paul Blair, to his my grandfather Charles Galt Blair. There we got a picture of him, and I've got lots of pictures we can share with you later. And then Hugh Sloan Blair, which is my great grandfather. I think we've had a picture for him, but I'm a little confused about which one. So anyway, to Sparta. Sparta is part of it's a small rural town southwest of St. Louis, in southern Illinois, in Randolph County, and apparently there was a fair number of Blair and Blair relations that all kind of did the agricultural farming work in Randolph County. My earliest recall about Sparta and where my father was born is in my grandfather and grandmother's house on my mother's side, her parents, and I used to listen to, and here's a picture that I finally got from the web, sorry, of the train station, the Gulf Mobile GM&O. That was my favorite railroad when I was a little boy. I would get any kind of GM&O railroad cars and stuff. But anyway, I would hear the steam engine, and I'm going to say that I'm like, maybe, gosh, I don't know, 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, something like that. When I'd hear these train stations, the steam engines coming into the train station in Sparta, and that's where my love for trains. And I also thought it was really cool because Sparta, Illinois' big business back in those days was that's where they made Dell comic books. And of course, I had my nose in a lot of those comic books. I wish I would have kept some of those, Superman, Captain Marvel, etc. That'd be kind of cool. So anyway, and then to conclude, not to dwell on this at too much of a length, but here's the schoolhouse, the township schoolhouse, as best as I've been able to dig out. This is where my father, Paul Blair, who was a quarterback for the Sparta High School Bulldogs football team, and he met and fell in love with my mother, shown here. And this is right when they were, I think, right close to when they were married. And then my dad later went in the Army Air Corps, and so outside the scope of this. But anyway, I want to alert you to the fact that I have basically, see if I can find the document. Yeah, I've joined the Blair Society for Genealogical Research, and just by way of background, I want to share with you, Monty and I, when we were back in Scotland, we learned that in fact there's two ancient Scottish families, the Blairs of that ilk, which, as best as I can tell, that's kind of where we come from, Monty, of Ayrshire. And then there's also the Blairs of Balliach in Perthshire, and that's up there where the Blair Castle, named for the area, not the family. So there's quite a debate still going on. But here's the key point I want to make, and that is that I've joined this society, and I've sent my DNA to this, I guess, absolutely totally bureaucratic organization in Houston that takes the DNA, and we've paid, Jan's helped me pay for this, up to 30, I think 32 or 37 levels back of my blood or my DNA, and see how far back we can go, so I can fill in the blanks as time goes by and share more about the Blair name and the Blair family, and we can nail down some of the loose ends. So to conclude, I thought it'd be kind of a appropriate way to conclude with something that was, as you all know, my dad was an Air Force pilot. This was his most favorite poem, and thanks to Jan, she dug this out of some papers that she had. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter silvered wings. If you look at a wing of an airplane, you'll see it's kind of curved. That's where that idea comes from, that laughter idea. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have never dreamed of, wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark or even eagle flew. And while, with silent lifting mind, I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God.